Welcome to the Love, Purpose, Connection podcast. I am your host, Estelle Bingham, and together we'll be delving into the profound meaning of love, the driving force of purpose, and the beauty of connection that shapes the fabric of our lives. In each episode, I sit down with some of the most inspiring individuals out there to understand the ways love has touched them. Eve is a Grammy and multi-award-winning artist. She's best known for her multi-million record, Who's That Girl and Gangsta Loving. She's worked with the likes of Gwen Stefani, Dr. Dre, Missy Elliott, to name but a few. But she not only works in the studio, she can be found on screen too. Most notably when you were hosting The Talk in America, Barbershop, the film. You even had a sitcom named after you, Eve, of the sitcom. And now she's turned to writing. Her memoir, Who's That Girl? It's out now. Here it is. Yeah. So amazing. We're going to talk about this and we're going to unravel it for everyone who's listening and tuning in. Proving she really is that girl. Eve, welcome to the Love, Purpose, Connection podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's so nice that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to say that, a few things actually. I read this book and I've obviously met you.
Yes.
And I really want people to know how human you are.
Yeah, man.
You're so human.
Yeah.
And your story, the reason why everyone should read this book, because it is an inspiration. And it's an inspiration on so many levels. Because within your story are so many stories.
Yeah.
And there's stories that are so human that we carry as women, that we carry as Black women, that we carry as human beings, that we carry as part of our... You know, what the lifetime is about.
Totally.
Whether it's in relationship, whether it's in work, whether it's our dreams, our hopes, our failures, whether it's all of the whole gamut of emotion. And you brought it into this you brought it into this book in a really fearless way, really raw way.
Yeah. I swear, this book, it's funny because I was like, if I'm going to do a book, I'm going to do it. I want to be honest. I want to be pure. I want to be the person that my closest friends know of me. And when I told one of my really good friends that I was thinking of doing a book, she literally, her first thing to me was, I hope when I read it, I hear you and not interview you. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, you know what I mean? Don't put the wall up. And I was like, oh, yeah. So, yeah, it's, what do you guys say out here? Warts and all. It's, but it also is, I wanted to kind of write things down and let things out that I fully am done with.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because you did write that somewhere that I heard you talk about that in an interview where this book is really cathartic for you, isn't it?
Completely.
It's a sort of a letting go of the story. You know, you've kind of really committed it and almost gifted it to people who want to be inspired and
nice.
You know, really. And you've inhabited something. Yeah. And owned up to stuff, in the sense of just owned it, because it's so hard for us to just own who we are often without the barriers and the wall and the mask. Yeah, you've just kind of brought everything. You brought the fire. Yeah, and then you can just let it go, right?
Yeah, I kind of was like, if it scares me, it should go in the book. Not scares me, but if I feel kind of worried about it, and there are certain things that I've talked about before, but I don't think I'd gone as deep as I have in the book about certain things. And weirdly, a lot of the things in the book, a lot of, I guess, the revelations about how I still felt about things came out as I was writing as well. Because, as humans, we tell ourselves, oh, I'm done. I'm over it. I lived it. I've done it. And then you start talking about it. And then you're like, oh, I still feel some type of way about this. Yeah. It was a really interesting process. The woman who wrote it with me, Kathy Iandoli, she's amazing. She is now a friend because she really is, because she we have the same sense of humor. We now call each other like Marge all the time and like joke with each other all the time. But she really caught my voice. But it was nice because we did write it together. Like I basically brain dumped and then she just brought it back to me, which was nice as well. So yeah, it was a good experience. I really do want people to read this book. I think it is a good read. And I'm not just saying that because it's my book.
And I'm not just saying it because it's your book either.
Yeah.
So when we sort of start, we start with this first chapter, and I know you've spoken about this quite a lot recently, but this idea of, Eve and this Eve being a curse. And I love the way, because you did say that she caught your voice. I mean, it does,
Yes.
it is you. Like,
it is me.
It's you.
Yeah.
And I can hear you totally. Some of these chapters, when we drop into some of the chapters, there's one chapter where you're talking about Aunt Karen, we'll come to that, but you were like, the first time I held a gun, and I was like,
I know.
And I'm kind of there with you.
Yeah.
But going back to this first chapter of just sort of, little Eve, where she arrives on the planet, and she's got this big ass, this big old name.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes.
And you're sort of like, is it, was it a curse?
Was it a curse? Yeah, I would. So yeah, because I grew up, my grandmother's still Jehovah's Witness, so I would go with her to Jehovah's Witness to the Kingdom Hall, and then I would go with other friends to Baptist church, Episcopal, whatever. But the narrative in the Bible is that, Eve bit the apple, or Eve gave Adam the apple, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Responsible for evil on earth. And I used to feel like that because grown-ups would literally say to me, like, why'd you do that? And I'm like, I am 8 years old. Like, what are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. But I did to a certain extent, because for years I actually did think I was cursed. I think I did certain things in my life. And as you know, in the book, I talk about drinking and the problems I had with drinking and partying and things like that. I went certain places because I think I really was like, well, this is who I am. This is who I'm supposed to be. This is my name, which is so crazy, And thankfully, I do not feel like that anymore.
No, you've put that
completely
to bed.
Completely.
But I want to come back to that actually, because that's so powerful for people to understand what the old conditioning can do. So you can have this incredible life and really extraordinary life.
Yeah.
It's so extraordinary. But then underneath it, there's still this narrative happening, and that can, suddenly we're in a sabotage, we're in a situation where we end up in the wrong relationships, or some of those choices are still, we're making and not in alignment. Yeah,
because you think, oh, but this is how I was literally born with this name. And like you said, old conditioning. I think it can be that, generational things.
Yes.
A lot of things that we carry that aren't ours.
Yeah.
And I'm still dealing with that. Like, are these my actual beliefs, or is this what I just heard my whole life as I was growing up? I do totally believe in, breaking generational, I don't like to say curses, but I do think that, in the timeline of our lifetimes, there are lots of us who are chosen to stop that. We don't need those things anymore. We don't need that hurt, that pain, that struggle, the stress. I believe it now, but it took me years to get there. Yeah.
So you've stepped into this real understanding that you have come in as the healer of your
I have accepted
line.
my mission.
Okay, yeah.
I guess. I mean, it's still weird to think like that because, so you can't talk to everybody about that.
But you can with me.
I can with you, which I love.
Yeah.
But I honestly feel honored.
Yeah, it's a privilege.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege. I feel like, man, things were harder. It took a little longer. I maybe struggled a bit more. And in a lot of my stuff, and I say this in the book as well, a lot of my stuff is internal. It is truly internal. I don't blame anybody at all for anything. I think it's just how I'm built. It's how I carry, I've chosen to carry this, or I was chosen to carry whatever it is. I remember one time I went years ago to a healer, a guy who actually helped me a lot. And he looked at me the first time he saw me. I came into his office and he said, "You got a big old invisible backpack full of other people's shit." And I was like, what? And I didn't get it at first. And then, years and years, I'm like, oh yeah, this is not even mine. It's not even mine. So yeah.
Because you are one of those souls that sort of, you've shown up, Eve, and you're pretty maverick, right? From each step of the way. And of course, when I read the book, because I grew up, you are like chanting, who's that girl, and like, but the tunes, but like, incredible tunes from you.
Thank you.
And what we forget is how young you were.
I was so young.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So bearing in mind, you talk about it really candidly, growing up in Philly, in the projects.
Yep, in the projects.
And I lived in Philly for a little bit.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so this is what I wanted to talk to you about, because I forgot that you were from Philly.
Yes.
But I lived in Philly. And I was down the road, you probably know where it was, but I can't remember, down one really, really long road of shops. I mean, this could be anywhere.
Probably
right?
South Street.
But I think it was South Philly.
Yeah, South Street.
I was in South Philly.
100% it was South Street.
Because it was around the time of the Roots were there.
Yes.
And
it was South Street, 100%. That when you said it, I can literally picture it.
Okay.
Because to me, also South Philly and South Street always had something going on. So if it was buzzy and busy, it had to be South Street.
It was buzzy and busy.
Yeah.
And there was someone called Nu there. Did you ever come across Nu? And she was the Roots. She was the tour manager. She was
I'm sure I probably have.
British girl. She's out there. You're probably watching this and or listening. And I went to visit her, and we hung out for some time. But Black Thought, actually, I wrote my first feature for Touch magazine.
No.
I'd never written anything before in my life, and I managed to get this feature with him. And Touch magazine were like, "Have you written anything before?" And I was like, "Well, I've got this exclusive if you want it." And I was just like totally hedging my bets, like really
I love that.
hustling.
Yeah.
And they were like, "But can you send me some stuff that you've written?" And of course, I hadn't written anything. But
I love it. Listen, you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. But I managed to get that and published, and that was the beginning of my journalistic career.
Yeah.
But it was amazing to like go sort of back into this Philly vibe,
Philly world,
Philly world.
It is its own thing. I mean, every city, every country, of course, has its own thing, but Philly is. I mean, the hip hop, the music, the history of Philly music. And I didn't even appreciate that until I got older. I really didn't. For me, it was the Roots and the people I battled, in a cypher on the corner in Philly. But I had been going to Roots concerts since I was like 14, 13, like showing up to their open mic night. So I have been an actual fan of Black Thought since I was like 14 years old, and it's amazing that, I love them. I still do. I'm a huge fan of the Roots. Yeah.
But for people who don't know Philly, let's give people let's sort of colour that in for them a little bit. Like,
I mean, Jill
the vibe.
Scott,
we've got Jill Scott. We've got all of those.
Yeah.
But there's sort of also that energy for you, because you say part of my attitude is when you in the book, it kind of, in a way, it keeps you moving, right?
Oh, yeah.
Through a lot of stuff.
Oh my God.
Your fierceness.
Yes. I say it in the book a bit as well, where it's like, thank God I'm from Philly. I mean, not verbatim, but having that Philly attitude has gotten me through life. 100%. Philly girls are known to be feisty. 100%. And we're also, I feel like Philadelphia is one of those cities that's like an underdog city.
Yeah.
It was anyway. For years it was, we have the Rocky Steps. And of course, Rocky was filmed there for people who love boxing and things like that. And just, that is who we are. We're like blue collar, but we get it done and we will work our asses off to make it happen. Mm-hmm. If I hadn't had that attitude, plus my mama, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here sitting talking to you. Like it pushed me through. It pushed me through. Definitely.
So in those early days, and it was still early days.
Oh yeah.
Right. This idea of the cypher, being on the street corner, the vibe of that, and the vibe of rap, of hip hop.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you remind everyone that rap is rhythm and poetry.
Yes. And I don't think most people know that.
And most people, I was like, I'm taking that to the interview because I want people to remember that.
Yes.
This is, rap,
rap,
but it's actually rhythm and poetry.
Yeah.
And when you just break that down, suddenly that's what are we in? We're just in something so expansive.
Completely.
And you describe yourself first and foremost as an MC and a lyricist.
Yes.
A poet.
Yes. And because I wrote poems when I was young, before I even thought about hip hop, I would sing in choirs and stuff. I was always one of those kids who needed attention, always. So I was doing something or begging to do something. So, I started writing poems first. And, you know, in that time, as I was coming up, there was like ABC and In Vogue and Color Me Bad and like all that kind of stuff was kind of fusing together. So at some point, I was like, I don't want to sing. I want to rap because I felt like it would get me the most attention, basically. And I did. I was like, okay. And then when I decided to rap, I was like, okay, I don't want to just rap and be good for a girl. Mm-hmm. I want boys to respect me, men to respect. I want girls to respect me. I don't want to just be like, oh, she's good for a girl. I hate that saying. So yeah, for me, I wrote and wrote and wrote constantly and also battled constantly. I was always in a cypher on South Street every Saturday night on 4th and South. That was where I did my ciphers. Yeah.
And how did that go down? I mean, what was like, you must, I'm loving, I wish I was a fly on the wall.
It's crazy.
Is there no footage of that?
You know what's funny? No, I don't have any footage. I think there's literally maybe one video of me at some talent show, but you know, and it was raw, but I don't know. I think my stepdad might have it. I gotta find out. But yeah, I mean, ciphers are, for people who don't know what a cipher is, it's a circle of MCs, basically. And you are trying your best to kind of knock each other out lyrically. And for me, because I always battle guys, I just went super low. You know, your dick small. You live with your mama, you're broke. Right. But it was the truth because we were all in high school, but it still hurt their feelings. And then I would throw in some lyricism because I always loved wordplay. So with a little bit of insult and a little bit of wordplay, you know, I became this, because I already had short hair as well. I had short blonde hair in high school. So people would be like, oh, you know that girl Eve, the one with the blonde hair that raps? That was like my full name. Right. And through the city, you know, because I was doing talent shows and everything, that's how I kind of came up from the ciphers to like stage. Yeah. Yeah.
But let's remember that you're doing this all on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Definitely.
Lest we forget.
Yeah.
You know, this real fortitude. Yeah. Fortitude is something different to courage. It's like, it's kind of like the next level. Yeah. You know, although obviously being courageous is incredible, but the fortitude
I love that.
Yeah, has an extra kind of, has an extra something to it.
It's true.
And fortitude is a way of, you get knocked down, but you come back, but this fortitude of, you know, real purpose. Yeah. And many things happen to you. You write about them in the book. I don't need to go into them because I know that you've spoken about them before, but you spent a couple of months in stripping. Yes. And then Mace came in and he said, don't do it anymore. And you were like, okay. And you know, all sorts of things happened, right? Yeah. Because you were just looking to, how can I make this work? How can I get some money? How can I get out? Like, how can I make my rap? How can I get my rap game? Like, how do I get myself out there?
How I get it? Yes, and it's funny because I tell people too, like, about the whole Mace thing and all those things. You have to be open, because no matter where you are in life, I think we all go through that of like, you might be lost or you might be doing something that you're like, I'm only passing time here. But you have to be open to the pivot and open to the message, because you are looking for something. And I knew I was. And he was just the messenger that night. Yeah. But he was my confirmation.
So he comes in, just so people know who haven't read the book yet. Yeah.
So Mace is a rapper turned pastor, actually. So him giving me that word was actually like, okay. He was meant to do what he was supposed to do. But at the time, he was literally the new kid on the block at Bad Boy. Yeah.
Because he was huge.
He was huge. He was huge. He was blowing up.
But he just sees you, he hears you, you rap for him, and you're always looking to rap for people. And he just says, you've got future.
He was like, you need to stop doing this right, like literally now. Yeah. If you want to have an actual career. And I listened, I never went back. Yeah. You know, I never saw those friends because I knew it. I was like, thank you. I actually was like so thankful because I was like, okay, this is my confirmation. This is my confirmation. And mind you, that chapter is called The Laziest Stripper because I was. So mind you, I was passing time.
Yeah.
I was literally passing time. I met these girls. I wanted to make money. I felt like I was grown. And not that I needed to. My mother or my stepdad never said to me, you better go pay bills. I was not that kid. It was all me just having this like pressure on myself because I knew that there was something bigger. I just knew it.
What I think is really, for me, the message of that story and many of the stories is actually just about how we are perfectly imperfect, right?
Yes.
And all of us find ourselves in places. I mean, I see people all day long, okay, who find themselves in places, in relationships, in jobs, in situations that they didn't imagine themselves to be, or they're not proud of, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there's, really, for me, the message of any of these stories is that it doesn't matter. Like, from one day it might look like this, and the next day, just get back on track.
Yep.
Take one step.
Yep.
Put one foot in front of the other, get back on track.
Yep.
And you've got this.
Yeah.
Right? Like something is calling you.
Yeah.
And follow the signs.
Follow the signs.
And
Follow the signs.
And
like
it's never too late. It's never too late.
It's never
too
ever. It's never ever too late. I think even more where we are in our worlds, I don't know what it is. And maybe because I'm older too, but I do feel like even more there is this possibility. More than ever.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't know why.
To reinvent yourself? Or
to reinvent, to be exactly what it is you want to be, or how you want to be, or whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want. It's true. Mm-hmm. It's real. I'm like this girl from Philly, and I'm here speaking to you in London, like right now. Like, this is crazy. And I'm 46 years old, and I still have that feeling. I hope it never goes where I'm like, whoa, I live in London. I'm from Philly. Like, I still get like geeked about that because I'm like, based on where I was born, based on statistics, I could be, on my, I don't know, 6th baby daddy, working in a hair salon or selling drugs. I don't know. And that's real because that was the reality of my neighborhood. Yeah. So I never take for granted what my life has become, ever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this idea of, by the way, you look pretty amazing for 46 years old. I mean, we all look, Thank God for hair and makeup. Child. Moisturizer.
But what you mentioned there is the excitement.
Yeah.
And so this is another little part of Eve that I think is really...
I'm like a puppy in real life. I'm like a golden retriever. People who know me know that. Like, I am like a golden retriever in real life.
But I want to just really point something out about the magic of that, because you're kind of self-deprecating there, and I want to just bring it back round to what it's really about, and how that then resonates in the universe.
Yeah.
It resonates as presence. It resonates as passion. It resonates as gratitude, actually. Yeah. And this constant, this real curiosity, the things that I talk about, curiosity and expansion. It means that we are staying curious, and then we're able to expand. And you have that. You talk about it through the book. So you get your first deal. Yeah. You go to LA. It's with Dr. Dre.
Yes.
And we hear about all of that. And he kind of, he's got Eminem going and this and that and la. And then they drop you from that label, which is actually a blessing in disguise in the end. We'll talk about why. But what you mention is just this sort of excitement. So you just, you want to put yourself, you're like going to all the studios, turning up at, any of the recordings. And when it comes to other female rappers a little bit later on down the line, you're like excited.
Yes.
You're like, let's just do this. Like, let's be in this together. Like, and that's your vibe. Yeah. We cannot do this interview and not talk about Blow Your Mind with Gwen Stefani. Yeah. Because again, this amazing part in the book where you talk about this fight that you had on your hands to actually get her onto the record, to get her on this track. Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. And when I wrote the song, I only heard her because I used to listen to No Doubt. I loved Gwen. And so I was like, we have to have her on the record. And they were like, the A&Rs and everybody was just like, this is never going to work. No one's going to believe it. And I'm like, believe what? It's a song. And if it sucks, no one ever has to hear it. And thankfully it worked out. And then years later, I had an A&R guy
come to me and was like, you remember I was on your side. I'm like, yeah, of course you were. But yeah, thankfully it worked out. Yeah.
Well, it's an iconic, legendary tune.
Yeah, it's the first Grammy I got.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Really amazing.
Yeah. One thing about the industry, which is why I dip in and out, is that there is this level and air of these steps and things, and they make it harder than it has to be. And I'm just like, I don't get it. Let's just do it. Like, and I've always been like that. I will say you do get chipped away at. I think I definitely, at a certain point in my career, after a while of running up to people and being pushed away, it definitely made me slightly harder. And I guess you have to be.
Yeah.
And it also becomes like deflating in a way.
Well, absolutely.
You know?
I mean, it's what it is. I mean, you know, it's a rejection.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Sorry. And I think that's when I started, and as I talk about in the book, that's when I really started drinking so much. Like when I turned to alcohol and things to kind of numb my feelings, because I'm like, well, am I doing stuff wrong? Like maybe I shouldn't be as me as I am because I'm being rejected or I'm not being listened to, or, you know, I'm around people who I feel like we have the best life ever. Why is nobody happy? I'm like, why is everybody so miserable? What's going on? And so I think that's when I kind of started self-medicating, because I was just like, okay, I don't really want to be conscious of what I'm around, honestly. And it took me, thank God I'm not there anymore. Just, I always am like, whew. But yeah, I think honestly, it's because of that energy that was in the industry of like people making it harder than it has to be, is when I went down that path. But I still showed up for myself. I always made sure, at least, okay, if I can't get you, at least I'm gonna show up for me.
Right.
So, yeah.
This moment when Dre has dropped you.
Yeah.
Because of his Eminem, you know, protege at the time. What did that feel like?
I was definitely devastated, especially because I was out there for 2 months. And you got to remember, like 2 months before that, and I talk about this in the book, I'd had like a going away party, like a big party. And, you know, people were like, she's going to LA and all that. And here it is, I had to go back home to my mom's house, sleep at the house. I mean, I slept on the couch because I just didn't want to go to my room. And I had to take the bus again. And not that that's a bad thing. It's just that when you think that's that moment and I'm going to be this famous person and, you know, my life's about to take off, it was truly devastating. But I will say, if I hadn't had that moment, I wouldn't be here. I know that. I would not have had the career that I have had and have, 100%. So I appreciate it now that I was dropped.
So it was the best thing that ever happened to you.
Best thing that ever happened, 100%.
So after LA, you basically back to
Philly. Back to Philly,
moved in with mom.
Yeah,
that's your kind of a real dip.
Yeah,
a real dip.
I was very depressed. I was very depressed because I was like, I thought this was the moment. You know, you hear that you only have one. And I thought that was the moment. But thankfully, I got a phone call and I had another moment. And I was like, okay, no, this is it. This is it. And at that time, when I was signed to Dre, I was called Eve of Destruction because I was like, I'm going to destroy you MCs. Like, you know. Then I dropped the of Destruction once I got home and got humbled, which I needed. And I was like, I just want to be Eve. I just want to show the world who I am. I just want to be me. And when I got that second phone call, which was for Rough Riders, and I got invited to go up to Yonkers, and I had to battle. I had to go back to my roots of Cypher. And that's how I got signed. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about that in the book. And of course, we're all on the edge of our seats around that because it's like a moment in a film, isn't it? Where you go in and you've got all the guys and it's, you know, and it's really raw.
Yes.
And they're not taking any prisoners.
No. No. I mean, at that time, DMX, may he rest, was, you know, he was huge. He was just blowing up. So it's this whole new energy and new crew. And they're like, okay, we're looking for our girl, that one girl. So Yeah, I couldn't mess it up. I had to rap for my life, basically.
Yeah, you rap for your life.
Rap for my life.
Yeah, and you became the first lady of Rough Riders. Yeah. And then your debut album was it, right?
Yeah.
Went to #1 in the US album charts.
Yeah. And it was off.
And it was off.
It was off.
Yeah. And one would think, and this is the thing, and again, it's so powerful in the book, because you just keep bringing us back, you keep it real in the book, right? That everything should be fine. But we know it's, fine. What does that stand for? It's like everything other than.
Yeah.
So you get on the road, you bring lots of friends on tour.
Yes.
You kind of do that thing where you want to keep everyone with you. And it really sort of blows up for you.
Yeah.
And you have a breakdown, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I have a breakdown. I was not sleeping. I was drinking. I was smoking weed. I was just doing all the stuff trying to keep up with my friends who I brought on the road and still performing every single night. And I basically just got depleted. And I had this breakdown. I'd never been there before. I had to fly to New York to do a video away from the tour. And I went in the bathroom and I just started screaming, crying. And I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize myself. And that was weird. That was weird. And that, I think, scared me more than anything. And but thankfully, my manager at the time was just like, after he said, okay, we might be sued, but I will get you off tour. He did. And he prayed with me that day. And that was also amazing. Yeah. He literally came into my room and was like, let's pray. I will call them. Don't worry about it. But it took me months to get back from that. And that's when I also started to realize, I mean, we still didn't have names for it then because nobody talked about mental health and stuff back then. So I didn't know I was having panic attacks. I didn't know that's what you called it. But that was the start of like my anxiety and panic attacks and stuff.
And the start of your healing journey, right? On one level, would you say that was a start?
I guess so, because I mean, when you're faced with something like that and you still have to work, you still have to show up, you have to start finding ways to cope with what it is you're dealing with and start figuring out what are those triggers that get you there, which I'm still dealing with, to be honest. I mean, I'm much better than I used to, but like I said to you before we got on, I'm the kind of person that hits the wall and then I'll be like, oh, maybe it's time for me to chill. I don't see the wall. I just hit it. So that's still something I need to work on. But as far as I do now know how to say no. I will say to management or agents or whatever, guys, I need this week. And especially now that I have a little boy, like he is everything to me and I don't want to be depleted around him. And I want to spend as much time as I can with him. So he actually gives me a nice little extra, sorry, no, it's so nice. And nobody can question you then anyway. So now I do know how to at least say no if I absolutely need it.
Hi, it's Estelle here, and I'm so excited to share my new book with you, Manifest Your True Essence, Clear Your Blocks, Find Your Joy, Live Your Truth. This is more than just a book. It's an invitation to come home to your heart. Within its pages, you'll find the guidance to reconnect with your true essence. Through gentle meditations, heart-centered practices, and soulful wisdom, you'll learn how to release old patterns, embrace your divine spark, and manifest a life filled with love, purpose, and connection. You can pre-order Manifest Your True Essence on Amazon or wherever books are sold and begin the sacred journey back to your heart today. Remember, you are love, you are light, and you are infinitely powerful. So one of the things I was going to say to you, I was going to ask you actually, how's your anxiety today? And what are you doing to kind of work with that?
It's better than it used to be. It's not great. My problem is when I'm working, I don't allow myself time to chill. So then I get to a place where I am now, where at the end of the year and I'm like, frazzled. That's what happens. I get super frazzled. I'm breathing shallow. And then that's when my anxiety comes. So it's still there and I'm still dealing with it, but I know it. I know I can name each thing, which helps me to stay present, if that makes sense. Because people who have suffered know that you can spiral and you're gone. It's like, it's bad. So I don't go there as much. The spiral is not as bad. And I do things. I see healers. I definitely, I pray. I talk to my angels. I talk to the universe. I know they're sick of me, child. They'd be probably putting me on hold at this point. But, I try to find these things. I do breath work. I try to, I listen to music, soft music. So solfeggio notes. I always say it wrong. Solfeggio.
The solfeggio.
Yes.
The solfeggios are incredible.
They're amazing.
For relaxing, for all of the anxiety. And really for powerful, deep cellular healing. Right?
Yeah. It's
help.
real.
It is real.
And I just reminded myself, I will be doing that when I leave.
Yeah. Put that in the headphones.
Yes.
Put that in the headphones.
On the way home.
Yes. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you about your spiritual life.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that in a minute. I just want to go back to the sort of, I suppose, a bit of the story because so many women out there will really understand and relate to when you had this relationship.
Yeah.
Again, so we've got all of the parts, we've got all of the flavors in this book, what it means to sort of be human.
Yeah.
And that one relationship that, you're like this gorgeous woman, this beautiful woman, so successful.
Yeah.
And here you are with a guy who just is not even coming close. I mean, well, I don't know, I was about to say he's not even coming close to. But there's obviously, there will be something about him. Okay, that he speaks to.
Of course,
some trauma in you or something. And then suddenly we flip into we're in a codependent relationship. We can't get out of it. Right. And there's that thing. What would you say got you out of it?
Ooh.
And let's just to preface that, how old were you as well?
Oh my God, I think I was like 22.
Okay, so around your so
young, 20s,
so young,
very young, 22, 23.
Yeah. Okay.
And he was just, it was one of those things that you get caught up in the industry of it all. He was in the industry. It was like, but what's also, now that I think about it, of course, it took him a year to get me because I was like, something kept saying to me, like in myself, I was like, no, I'm good. Nope. And then he kind of did all the things of like talking to my homies, and I thought that was so sweet. And then we get in it and he was definitely terrible. And what happened, what really got me out of it was that I just started seeing him for who he really was. Like every time something would happen, like we would go through something, it was like a veil was lifted, another one. And finally it was like my star kept rising and I was like, what am I doing? No, it's time to go. It's time to go. So yeah, I guess it was just one of those things where it was like clarity, some sort of way. Because he was just horrible.
One of the things that's useful is that red flag that we hear. So
yes.
And you've mentioned this in a few interviews. I've spotted that you've said, if I gave any advice to anyone at this moment, it'd be just listen to your gut.
Listen to your gut.
Right, listen to that higher self.
And that gut, and it's hard. I know sometimes it can be hard because our brains and our guts and our hearts sometimes don't speak the same language. So there could be something going on, but it's that sure feeling. It's the feeling. Yeah. It's that feeling. It might be a millisecond, honestly. And that's the other thing because it can come and go so quickly. But that feeling with that thought is your gut. Just listen and trust yourself. Because I didn't trust myself. It took me years to get there, but trust yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a big part of coming back to our true essence, actually. Yes. I've just written a book about it, which will be coming out soon.
Yes.
But that idea of just the higher self, listening to that voice inside that's really our guidance.
And it's hard sometimes.
It's hard to grow that, right? But it's where we have to go.
Yeah.
which brings us to, yes, I'd love to hear about your spiritual life, because you grew up with the Jehovah's Witness.
Yes.
We had that happening. Like you said, you go to sort of Methodist and Baptist churches, but also you spent a little bit of time, not long, but you did a conversion or sort of Islamic, and you felt really safe
Islam.
around that.
I
Because
love
of course,
Islam.
Islam, like the Nation of Islam in America is
Nation of Islam.
so powerful.
It's very powerful.
Yeah.
So my stepdad, who still follows like a lot of the Nation of Islam stuff, and that's more his thing. But and now that I'm older, we can talk about it. But it was funny because I used to cover fully, and I was like Sunni. I would call myself Sunni Muslim, and when I go. I was like, this is who I am now.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I really did, and I just think it's a beautiful religion, and yeah. So I did that for a little while, but I realized I loved hip hop. And I like to additional smoke some weed. Right. And I was like, well, I don't want to be a hypocrite to the religion, and chose hip hop to be my career. And then throughout that time, I kind of, when Kabbalah was a thing, I kind of dabbled into that, and Buddhism kind of dabbled into that slightly. And then I came to this place finally where I was just like, you know what? I believe in all things. I believe in the universe. I believe in God. I believe in angels, ancestors. And that is what I call my team. I say it's my team. So that's where I am now. I still think, listen, whatever you want to be, whatever religion, that's totally fine. I think it's just coming back to believing in something that's bigger than you, understanding that there is bigger than yourself. And the one thing I am looking for now, though, is community around it. I'm missing that part of it. Yeah. So, yeah. And especially with my baby, I want him to grow up with a sense of faith and belief. So, yeah.
I've just got some goosebumps there, Eve.
Yeah.
I love a bit of a goosebump vibe. Yeah. And I got the goosebumps when you mentioned your ancestors and the angels. Yeah. And also this idea of all of it. Which is actually, it's very Vedic, it's very Gnostic. Yeah. It's the Gnostic way of just everything is, and God exists, and however you want to relate to God is how you want to relate to God, but it's sort of all of it. Yeah. Your team of angels, I call them the family in the light. I call them the sort of, cosmic squad of peeps.
Love that.
Yeah. Do you feel them?
That's a good question. I'm such a spook. I'm almost like I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready. Right. And I think they know. Right. I am such a spook, and when it comes to that, because I'm like, yes, I know it's real, but also don't show me yet. I'm not ready. So, but what I do feel, yes, I will still say yes, because I know when they're near, especially like my aunt Karen, who I talk about in the book. I feel like she always visits me around November. We both have birthdays in November. Oh. So I would say yes, but I definitely, like people like you who have like that gift, I don't know if I'm ready for that. That stresses me out.
You say that now, Eve. But...
I know. And you know what? This is what's freaking me out a little bit about what's happening with me now, which I love because it's an adventure and it's new. But there's this clarity of things that I'm like, is it gonna? I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready. I'm not ready now.
Listen, how can the first lady of Rough Riders, how can like the biggest female rapper of all time, you are, come
though.
On, let's talk this through. 2025.
Well, I'm leading these breath sessions, these healing sessions. I don't know how this has come to me, but I'm just walking through the door.
Because it's meant to, right?
I'm just a facilitator. Yeah. That's what I feel is my role at the moment. Yeah. I'm in charge of atmosphere and lighting. That's all I'm in charge of now.
But also, you in the greater scheme of things. So when we think about the lifetime, you really, there's a moment, and this is the thing where you just are able to just be you. Like you've spoken about that a lot. I just want to, like, what does it feel like to just be me? on all levels. And, you know, you are that girl, right? So it's like you bring that joy, you bring that real, it's such a subtle but powerful gift of openness, really. Like in who you are, like in your deepest, you know, and warmth and love. And so, yeah, like that's the thing. It's like sometimes we just have to be the channel, right?
You gotta be the channel.
You gotta be the channel.
Like, fine.
Yeah.
I think though it's funny because when I was a kid, I feel like I've always felt stuff.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I have. And I definitely just, I didn't ignore it. I just didn't know what it was. But when I think back, I've always been like just slightly more sensitive to things and knowing things. And it's just like, oh man, you know?
I hear this so much in my practice. The thing about the childhood, and then it gets shut down.
It gets shut down,
It gets shut down because it doesn't feel safe.
Yeah.
But of course, what we do is we can just protect ourselves, and we just, you know, it's having the ancestors, the angels, knowing who you're working with, which is God, right? So always knowing who you're working with, source energy, whatever that is for you, that light energy. But then we just sort of elevate to whatever, you know, whatever the mission is.
Yeah.
Whatever's coming in.
Whatever's coming in.
So I happened to see you shuffle some cards recently.
Okay.
I'm
like, look at me. Look. This is what I'm like.
Okay.
Lord.
And I saw you shuffle these cards and I was like, okay, this is someone who shuffles oracle cards, right?
I do, yeah.
And it was I was like, okay, blum blum.
I love it.
For anyone who doesn't know, how would you describe an oracle card, Eve?
I personally, my definition is, it's kind of like giving yourself a reading through these cards. You ask specific questions to whoever it is you believe in, universe, angels. I always ask for, what is it that I need to know? What is it I need to hear? So I guess cards that give you a message.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's really great as well to point out to people, like if you pray, like it's wonderful to pray and have the right energy around your cards.
Yes.
Like everything we come to, we have the right energy and we're speaking to the angels. You know, you're really your intention is to commune with the light.
Yes.
Right? To commune with your people in the light.
Yeah.
And it's just a way for those people, that energy in the light to speak to you.
Yeah.
And often we get the signs, don't we? We might get a feather, we might get a number, we might get a song, we might get someone may say something completely out of the blue. You're on the tube or on the bus, someone says something and it's just the right thing at the right time. And those are actually also little divine messages.
Yeah.
So the oracle cards are kind of a bit of a way of sort of just guiding us through each day in a sacred way. I like the ritual of them too. Yeah. Just bringing yourself into a bit of presence, might come after a meditation, after a bit of solfeggio.
It's true.
And then you just pick a card and it's some guidance and it's a sort of little help along the way. And you said in that interview, you were like, I do shuffle oracle cards. Of course she shuffles oracle cards. So I've got some oracle cards with you. Yeah, with me. Yeah. with us.
With us.
And I just thought, well, listen, let's just shuffle and let's just have you have a shuffle and maybe have a pick. Okay. Right?
Okay.
We're going to end our session on that.
Yes. Okay. Is it how many?
Just what's coming in for you. Okay. Or 2025 or like just whatever's here in the room.
Okay. One, just one.
Whatever you feel like. What do you feel like, Eve?
3. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Right, that was a guided 3, wasn't it?
The Alchemy of Poison.
Okay, I'll read that to you.
Okay, yes.
Transformational lessons, reclaiming personal choice, radical forgiveness.
That's probably good for my heart.
Yeah. And that's kind of the book.
Yeah, it is actually.
Right, that's a letting go. Order in the forest, cleansing, releasing resentments, making amends.
Wow.
Who's that girl?
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, heart. I just said heart.
Gratitude is dreaming.
Wow.
The manifesting power of gratitude. The law of praise.
Which is what you just said. Yeah, those seem perfect.
So we'll take those.
Yeah, those seem perfect.
Right? We love
They're
that.
Beautiful cards.
So these ones are the letting go.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is the coming in.
Yeah.
And look at that beautiful heart.
I
It's just
love
beautiful.
that. It's funny because today I was thinking about my heart space when we talked. And that is a big space for me. So that makes perfect sense. Because that for me is 2025. Is to, I won't say heal, but maybe heal. But open, even though I am open. But there are...
Eve, let's bring it.
Yeah.
What do you really want to be doing with your heart?
It needs a bit more... It does need a bit more openness. Yeah.
And why do we think we need a little bit more openness there? What happens when the world gets to feel your heart?
I know. I mean, listen, it adds to everything. It adds to the authenticity. It adds to my growth of whatever this journey, wherever I am now on this journey. It's such a new place and a very scary place. But it's for me, but it's for everyone as well, I think.
It's for everyone.
Yeah.
So we all get to feel that shine.
Yeah.
Which is, I have to say, it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
We love it.
I'm ready. Finally, I think.
Yeah. You're ready.
I'm ready.
And it's been so amazing to have you.
Thank you for having me.
On the Love Purpose Connection podcast, Eve.
Thank you.
So happy you came.
Thank you.
So wonderful. Those words, Love Purpose Connection.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What do they mean to you?
Oh. I mean, for me, this honestly goes back to what I said about finding community. Opening my heart, and being in my purpose, walking in my purpose, and doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah.
Amen to that,
Amen.
girlfriend.
They're good words.
Thanks, Eve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Love Purpose Connection with me, Estelle Bingham. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'd really appreciate that. And if you really liked it, then leave me a review so I can keep doing what I love, healing one heart at a time. You can also follow me, Estelle.Bingham, on Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest releases. If you feel in need of some extra guidance, then my book, Manifest Your True Essence, could be helpful. You can find it online or in any major bookshop. In the meantime, thanks again for listening, thanks again for watching, and I will join you on the next episode of the Love Purpose Connection podcast.